On the set of Magnum PI, I went through many different injuries. In fact, Tom had accidentally punched me in the face and folded my front tooth back like one of those bowling pin games where you slide it and the pins go back. Well, my front tooth did that, and I stuck a roll of toilet paper in my mouth and wrapped my head with an ace bandage and treated myself with the instrument all night long. And the next day I took the roll of toilet paper out, and it was, just the size of the roll, and the tooth felt pretty good. And it lasted for about 10 years. So people knowing that I'd treat a few people, I was treating everything from dogs. Somebody's dog was yelping because it had hip dysplasia, and my dog doesn't yelp anymore. So everybody started saying, go see John on the stunt trailer. He can make anybody's pain go away. So I had a guy that had been shot, a Honolulu police detective, had been shot 6 times and couldn't get his arm above his belly button. I treated his shoulder. And within 2 weeks, I had his arm above his head. He came back to me and he said, John, I hadn't hugged my children in almost 3 years since my injury because I couldn't get my arm around them. Could only hold with one arm. I got both my arms around my kids. I hugged my children for the first time. He said, I hope you don't mind. I told my neighbor who's a nurse, she has cluster headaches and she has migraine headaches. And her daughter's an extra on the set, so she can get on the set. But I told her about you, and she saw me and she went, oh my God, look what you can do. And he goes, the guy does miracles. You ought to see his body. He's so beat up, and yet he's functioning and does everything he loves, and he's not in any pain. At least he's saying he's not in any pain. So she showed up, and so I had everybody at those to sign a release not to be considered a medical treatment of any kind, because as we all well know, or maybe if you don't, but you oughta, no good deed goes unpunished. So be careful in what you're doing and trying to help some people, because we have a very sue-happy world. That's why I had my release. But I also realized that people didn't appreciate what you did unless there was value to it. So in those days, I was charging $115 a treatment. So within 10 days, Mary Beth no longer had a headache. She came to me and she said, John, I hope you don't mind, but I told the president of the hospital, because he saw the twinkle in my eye, and he said, what did you do? And she said, I haven't had a headache in 2 weeks. Hey, what could he do for I was a competitive marathon runner at 50. At 52, I can't get past 12 miles. Could he help me? And she goes, I'm sure he could. He goes, because I have 80 physicians here that have injected me with everything, and none of it's worked. I can't get past 12 miles. So sure enough, I get a knock on the door, and the gentleman said, Mary Beth's boss, and she told me you do miracles. And he handed me his card. And I looked down, Dr. John Mungie, president of Castle Medical Center, a Loma Linda Division hospital. And I looked at his card and I handed it back to him, and I said, I hear you throw people in jail for practicing medicine without a license. He goes, no. I just want to get treated. I just want to run again. It did so much for my mental attitude to be able to run, and now to not get past 12 miles without tying up. So he said, would you help me? I said, sure. Sign this release not to be considered a medical treatment of any kind, of which he did, and I began treating him. 2 weeks into the treatment, he called me and he said, I went 17 today. I feel pretty good. The Honolulu Marathon's coming up. What do you think? I said, it's your body talking to you. This isn't I'm not blocking your pain. I'm not doing anything to block. I'm just correcting. And so then he ran his best time ever in the Honolulu Marathon. Came back to me and he said, would you take a position at my hospital? I said, I don't need a job. I got a great job here on the set at Magnum PI. And I probably make more money than your doctors anyways. And why would I go into a hospital that feeds people crappy food and full of infection? I think I'll pass. And he said, well, first of all, we're Seventh-day Adventists, and we're a nonprofit hospital, and we're vegetarians. So we're not feeding people crap food. And our hospital doesn't have carpet. We're all clean, and we don't have a lot of cases of infection in our hospital. And since we're a nonprofit hospital, I'm only getting 1 day for an appendectomy. If I don't get that patient out of the hospital in 1 day, I'm paying for the bed. And from what you did for me, I think you could make sure that our hospital functions at full integrity and get people out on time. Would you try it for a week? I said, I'm not a doctor. I'm a stuntman. He said, you did what 80 physicians couldn't do. Since he told me that I could come at any time of the day or the evening, I could continue to keep my job on Magnum PI. So I started seeing patients and ended up with 19 technicians, each seeing 8 patients a day, where I could say through trial and error, if you do the bilateral spinal like I did on the horse, treat the whole being. If they're coming in with an elbow issue, treat the elbow, but on the 3rd day go systemic. So that's where we developed the clinical protocols, by failures and success. It was all trial and error. But being in a hospital, and I was having the doctors, hey, no wonder he's got a non-union. Look where you got your nuts and bolts. So I said, you got to remove all your hardware. So I want you to cut holes in the cast. They said, I'm not going to do that. He's going to swell. Well, when they took the cast off and they said that I removed all the inflammation and where the plates were, there was dents. Now, I made squares, and I put the squares back into the cast, so the cast remained its integrity. But then slowly but surely, the orthopedic surgeons stepped up. Because when they asked me to lecture to all the doctors in the hall, and I said, never give a stuntman a microphone. But he said, no, they need to hear what you have to say. And I said, I don't think they want to hear what I have to say. And he said, no, John, I want them to know you, and I want them to prescribe the patients to you. So as I stood up in front of these brilliant men and women, and I said, I'm amazed and I'm honored to be amongst you brilliant men and women. And I believe all of you went into medicine for the right reasons, to help and to give back. But I want every doctor in this room that first does no harm, stand up. And I could see Dr. Munchie off on the side going, oh no. And so there was dead silence, and no one stood up. I said, I want to give you new tools with new rules. You took Hippocrates' oath, but none of you can stand up and say that you're following it. Because when you told me I would never surf for snow ski or fly my hang glider, and my career as a stuntman was over, I understood the emotion of suicide. And knowing, because I have a spiritual foundation, that I couldn't do that, and that I made a deal to come down as an angel and come down and change this beautiful, beautiful blue planet that is truly heaven on earth, if you allow it to be. And so I made a commitment to the Holy Spirit that I would be one of God's white light warriors, slaying darkness. Darkness doesn't exist if you keep the lights on. So I knew I couldn't take my life. So I had to step up, man up, and heal myself, of which I did. And now I've seen thousands of other people heal themselves. And that's what this is all about. A device that'll scan your body, a device that'll enhance your immune system and do what God has created you to do, and that's to heal thyself.